Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tanya Gray. I'm the Director of People Inc. Group. Today, myself and Cameron will be speaking about building reliable construction teams. We see this firsthand because we're constantly landing workers from the Philippines for all types of industries. So, wanted to share some insights and hints and tips. So, New Zealand's construction sector continues to face huge workforce shortages across trades, technical occupations, project delivery, and specialist construction roles. Recruitment remains incredibly important, but increasingly we're seeing employers recognise that retention is just as critical to building reliable teams. One of the biggest challenges isn't simply finding the people, it's finding the people that are reliable. They'll come to work every day. They're committed and they're work ready. For those of you that employ workers or are trying to recruit workers, HR is becoming a bigger and bigger headache. Across the industry, employers are telling us daily, several times a day, that they're spending more time managing attendance issues, drug and alcohol, performance issues, staff turnover, and resignations soon after people have been hired. We also need to be honest about the future of the talent pipeline that we don't have in New Zealand. We've got an ageing trade workforce. We've got guys that are finishing work early that would generally train others and have succession plans in place. We don't have enough apprentices coming through in some occupations, and ongoing competition from Australia across the ditch for our skilled workers. The Aussie businesses are calling our office every day wanting us to recruit the local talent, and we say no. Skills shortages continue across many construction occupations, and experienced tradespeople remain incredibly difficult to find. The concern for many businesses is that it's becoming more than a recruitment problem, it's becoming a workforce sustainability issue. If we're not attracting the talent, developing them and retaining them for the next generation of construction workers, the talent shortage will continue for years and years to come. We saw this 10 years ago and it's gotten a lot worse, a lot faster. So this is why the conversation has shifted. It's no longer about how do we find good people. It's now about how do we build the teams that are reliable, that we can count on, they're productive, they're engaged, they're going to turn up and they want to stay. The businesses that are performing best today are treating immigration, recruitment, retention, workforce planning, onboarding and career development as one workforce strategy rather than separate activities. New Zealand's construction sector is still facing real workforce pressures. Even where project pipelines have softened in some areas, the skill shortage has not disappeared, unfortunately. Employers are still struggling to find skilled, experienced tradespeople, supervisors, project managers, engineers, estimators, any technical type role, and people who can step into roles without minimal hand-holding. The challenge is not the same for every business. Some companies are dealing with urgent vacancies. They need to hire immediately. Others have people in seats, but they're struggling with reliability, performance, attendance, productivity, and turnover. For many employers that come to us, the issue is no longer can we recruit? It's actually about can we build a team that we can actually rely on. We're also seeing recruitment timelines stretching for specialist roles. Good people are hard to move, they're hard to attract, they're hard to retain. And when they do become available, businesses need to act very quickly. Construction businesses often do not have the luxury of waiting months for the perfect person because the projects don't wait, the deadlines don't wait, the clients don't wait, and site requirements keep moving. Another pressure point is the future talent pipeline. With our ageing workforce in parts of the sector, not enough apprentices coming through in many areas, and experienced workers continuing to be difficult to replace. If we do not address that now, the shortage becomes a long-term, very serious workforce issue. It's not just a current recruitment issue. Again, we saw this 10 years ago. I started recruiting Z almost 20 years ago. We saw this 20 years ago. It's getting a lot worse. So what we're seeing is a shift in thinking. Businesses are looking for more certainty. They need to have reliable talent on the shop floor, day in and day out. It's too hard to know whether people are coming or going. Businesses are looking for the certainty. They want to know who they will need, when they will need them, where there's gaps that are likely going to appear, and whether they should be looking locally in the New Zealand workforce or overseas or a mix of both. It's a matter of having the right people in the right seat at the right time. One of my favourite sayings. The employers that we deal with that are coping the best, they're not waiting until they're desperate with a knee-jerk reaction. They're planning earlier, they're looking further ahead, and they're treating workforce planning as a business risk issue, not just an HR or recruitment task. That leads into what construction businesses are now we're seeing starting to do differently, finally. The best operators that we're working with are moving away from the reactive, knee-jerk hiring and starting to build workforce strategies, working alongside us to cover recruitment, retention, onboarding, career and development pathways, and the long-term planning. They're partnering with experts like us that know what to do, how to do it. We take the stress off their hands. We've been there and we've done that. The businesses navigating these workforce challenges most successfully aren't necessarily the biggest businesses or the ones paying the highest wages. It may not necessarily be the corporates. They're the businesses that have become more proactive. They've realised what they need to do. Instead of waiting until somebody resigns or a project's already under pressure, they're planning their workforce needs 6, 12 and even 18 months ahead. They're looking at project pipelines, identifying future skills gaps and putting plans into place before those gaps become critical. We're also seeing employers becoming much more open-minded about where the talent is coming from. They've realised they can't fill the roles locally. They've tried. They've been trying for 12 months. So rather than relying solely on the local market, they're combining local recruitment, apprenticeships, internal development, and most importantly now, international recruitment as one part of their workforce strategy. But probably the biggest shift is now around the retention of these workers. Many employers have realised that replacing good people is becoming more and more difficult and more expensive. Last night I spoke to a gold mining company in the South Island, and they've been recruiting for one role for 18 months. They've not been able to find the role. It's a critical role. They've come to us. They know that they can have the guy landed in 3 months. Businesses are investing more time into leadership, onboarding, training, career development, and creating workplaces where people actually want to stay. You spend more time with your co-workers than you do with your family generally. They're also taking a long-term view of skilled migrant recruitment. So instead of simply focusing on filling today's vacancies, they're asking how they can help the workers to stay longer, to call New Zealand home, to build a future in New Zealand. New Zealand can't grow without skilled migrant workers. That means better onboarding, settlement support, pastoral care, support from families, and understanding, most importantly, the residency pathways that encourage these people to call New Zealand home and to stay long term. The reality is that businesses struggling the most are often recruiting reactively. We see it time and time again. Someone leaves, a project starts, the workload increases, and recruitment becomes urgent. By that stage, the supervisors are stretched. The existing staff are carrying out so many extra responsibilities and pressure, and every hiring decision becomes more difficult. The businesses that are coping best have moved workforce planning from being an HR issue to a business strategy issue. We work with the businesses that have a business strategy and align the HR strategy in that. The most successful businesses we see, not only construction, are no longer treating recruitment as an event. They're treating workforce planning, retention, and talent attraction as a core part of their business strategy. Which brings us to one of the most common questions we get asked by not only construction employers, but business day to day. When should we actually start to recruit from overseas? Because overseas recruitment isn't about a replacement for local recruitment. It's another way to have staff on the tools to provide certainty when the local talent is no longer available. So this is one of the most common questions we get asked from employers on a daily basis, and not just the construction industry. The first thing I'd say is that overseas recruitment isn't just a replacement for local talent. When we go to market, we try to find local talent. It's part of the Immigration New Zealand requirements, labour market testing. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's the most successful businesses are using both as a part of their broader workforce strategy. So when should you start considering overseas recruitment? Usually it's when you've genuinely tested the local market and you simply cannot find the people you need any longer. It might be because the skills aren't available, this level of experience isn't available, or the market is dictating too high of a wage band for these people to be employed. This has to be financially viable. We often see businesses advertising for months. They come to us, they haven't secured the right person. I ask them, so what have you been doing? They say advertising for months, and we haven't found anyone in New Zealand. And I say to them, well, look, if this is a critical hire, it's the old saying, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. The other trigger is growth. If you've got projects secured, workload's increasing, and you know you're going to need people over the next 6 to 12 months, that's the time to start planning. Don't leave it to the last minute. Waiting until you're already under pressure usually means you're reacting rather than making proactive strategic decisions. I'd also challenge the idea that overseas recruitment is only about filling the vacancies. It's not. The businesses getting the best outcomes are using it to create certainty. They know what projects are coming. They know what skills they'll need, and they're building a workforce pipeline before this shortage impacts the delivery and has a flow-on effect. It has an impact on the business's brand and reputation going forward. The best time to recruit from overseas is not when you're desperate. It's when you can see the problem coming and you have time to plan for it. You need to plan 3 to 4 months in advance. If you spoke to me today and asked me, I need a guy for a project, I'd be able to say to you, we can have them landed in 3 to 4 months. Finding people is only half the equation. Whether these workers come from New Zealand or overseas, the real challenge is keeping them, retaining them. That's why the conversation is increasingly shifting from recruitment to retention and building teams that stay. So we've talked a lot about finding people, but the reality is recruitment only solves part of the problem. The recruitment fills the vacancies, the retention builds the teams. HR strategy is a large part of what we do for our clients. It's critical. The construction businesses, well, any businesses really, performing best today are not necessarily the ones that recruit the most people. They're the ones that keep the good people once they have them. That means looking at residency options before the guys even land in New Zealand. These are some of the discussions we're having with employers now. Every time a skilled worker leaves, there's a cost. There's lost productivity, additional pressure on supervisors and the existing team, huge recruitment costs, training costs, project disruption, and the risk of knowledge being lost and experience from the business. In our experience, people don't usually stay because of one thing. They stay because they feel valued, supported, and see a future for themselves and their families in the business. That starts with good leadership. It continues with clear communication, strong onboarding, fair pay, opportunities for growth and learning new skills, and a workplace culture where people actually want to come to work. For migrant workers, retention becomes even more important. The employers who get the best results are investing in settlement support, helping workers and their families call New Zealand home, and creating clear pathways for long-term development and, where eligible, residency options. And this links directly back to the talent shortage we discussed earlier. We cannot recruit our way out of every workforce challenge. At some point, we have to focus on keeping the good people we already have. I'm going to hand over to Cameron now, who's going to speak to all things immigration around all the recent changes.
Good afternoon, England supporters. Half Scottish. We're looking at the changes that are going to come into effect on the 24th of August. 2 new pathways that are going to affect construction and help trade workers get through. This will help to avoid the AEWV stand-down period. So all AEWV holders, so work visa holders, are going to face a stand-down period of 12 months. They'll be out of the country shortly, unless they can apply for a different type of visa or apply for residency. So hence these changes are really, really important. So we've got 2 new categories here, the skilled work experience category. These are both under the SMC, so the skilled migrant category that we've already got. And these are just kind of split off from there. The skilled work experience pathway requires 3 years of directly relevant work experience plus 2 years of New Zealand skilled work experience paid at $38.50 per hour. So 1.1 times the national median wage. That employment has to be in scale 1 to 3, which is skilled. So they must be in a skilled occupation and they must not be on the red list. So we've got a red list there, only a few occupations on there, can't be on there. But this category doesn't have an occupation list, so it's suitable for pretty much everybody except for the red list. You've got the trades and technician pathways, the other option, and this is going to be bigger for the construction industry, but maybe not for guys who are already in New Zealand. It is difficult for them to gain the post-qualification work experience required. So they've got an occupation list for this one. They need a level 4, a relevant level 4 qualification, and then they need total of 4 years post-qualification work experience. So that's 2.5 years of experience that could be offshore or in New Zealand, but they must have 18 months New Zealand skilled work experience paid at the median wage. Those on the amber list, there's another list, they must be paid at least 1.2 times the median wage. All right. Tane's talked a lot about that recruitment. When we're recruiting, we've got to keep these things in mind, the qualification, not just looking for the work experience, but look for that qualification for their residency pathways. On the skilled work experience pathway, there is something that you really need to pay attention to, and that's the wording of directly relevant, or the definition of directly relevant. We've never had that term in immigration before, so it's a new one. Immigration just released the instructions on this. It must be an ANSCO skill level 1 to 3 occupation, so a skilled job. It's got to be directly relevant. It must be full-time, so at least 30 hours a week. Difficult to prove for some people with offshore work experience. It must have been completed within the last 10 years, and it can't be from self-employment, and we have no definition of what self-employment is going to be. So, yeah, we'll have to check back on that one. But directly relevant is going to catch a lot of people out on that pathway, because otherwise that pathway looks very nice and easy. A couple of key points on the points changes. So we've got really positive changes to the points assessment. We've got high points for qualifications. Somebody with a bachelor's degree only going to need 1 year's relevant work experience, where it used to be 3. Something along those lines. It is a really positive move. And one that we've always not agreed with is the fact that people needed to hit the median wage at the time of their application lodgement. Now they don't. From the 24th of August, they don't need that bump in their wage, which employers will really like. We've got a 5-month grace period, which is confusing a lot of people, including myself. It means that you've got a window of opportunity where if you didn't hit the national median wage at the time of your commencing employment, you've got a little bit of leeway now, which is so important. So if you want that explained in more detail, come and have a chat with me, but we'll need a whiteboard. It is pretty confusing. And just on that, there's a really important note on these changes. Well, not just the changes, but this look back window. It's not really mentioned in anywhere that I can find on their website or anything like that, but you must have your work experience gained within a certain amount of time, right? So 12 in the last 24, 18 in the last 36, and 2 in the last 48. If that window shifts, if you delay residency lodgement like lots of migrants are doing right now because they just can't quite get that wage, that window's shifting. And so they're going to eventually lose all of their work experience points. They'll lose the lot. That's the risk of delaying lodgement. So if you're eligible, you apply. Do not leave it too late, because it can. And their window could be quite large, but some windows could be very small. Master's degree. Somebody with a master's degree with 5 points has only got a window of 24 months. So that window is moving quickly. And so they can miss out very, very quickly. So just something to be aware of. Right, we're on time. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of the day.